There are two words to describe the Hyundai Ioniq 5N: insane. It just might be the most impressive EV on the road right now. You're watching Four Wheels in the Seat. I'm Alex Dalrymple. This is my channel where I review new cars every week, normally for people who are looking for a new car and don't know which way to turn, but something tells me if you're watching this video and you know what this is, you probably have some idea of what it is you want to buy. But either way, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, the notification bell, and if you enjoy the video, please do give me a like. The Ioniq 5N takes everything that Hyundai has already put into the awesome i30N, made it electric, mixed it up with the brilliant Ioniq 5, and the result is this, one of the best EVs you can get. So we've got the already striking Ioniq 5 as a basis, but it's been given the N treatment, and here today it's in performance blue in the matte finish, which is a $1,000 option. I think it's worth doing. It looks really, really good. So we've got lots of extra vents here, including up along the top here, this row of vertical vents, down low here, horizontal vents that open and close as need be to keep the battery cool, the nice contrasting black Hyundai badge here, my favorite design element at the front, which is the same as the regular Ioniq 5, and that's the pixelated front lights here, the driving lights that do double duty as indicators. Love it. Side on, and the first thing you notice are these massive 21-inch alloys. They look so good. Big red brake calipers underneath them with the N badging on them. Big brakes, such a strong look. Really love this blue matte finish here. It does provide such a nice contrast here with the shiny wing mirrors. Door handles sit flush and pop out when you approach the car like they did just then. You can get a version of this car with a sunroof. It does cost extra. As usual, you've got to pay more for less roof, but I don't think you really need it, it's not that necessary. Love the creases here that carry over from the regular Ioniq 5. Bit of extra aero here on the rear wheel arches, the red N trim down the bottom there, nice contrasting look, and the all-important charge port here on the rear right-hand corner. Functional wing up here on top allows air to pass through, providing a bit of extra downforce, more of these pixelated lights, which I love. Ioniq 5 badging, the red N stripe there and more N down the bottom there, pixelated reflectors, and under the powered tailgate is a boot. Not that carrying stuff around is really of a major concern to most Ioniq 5N owners because the extra weight is just going to slow you down. This is just one of this car's two electric motors. There's a second one hidden away underneath on the rear axle. But together these two motors output a maximum of 478 kilowatts of power and a blistering 770 Newton meters of torque, shooting it to 100 k's per hour in 3.4 seconds. Now, Hyundai don't quote a battery range figure on their website, but a quick Google tells me you get about 448 kilometers on a full charge. Charging to 80% takes around 18 minutes at a high-speed charger. Now, those output figures you can only get for 10 seconds at a time when you hit the NGB button, that's N-Grin Boost. It's sort of video gamified this car's performance, which seems quite apt, being the kind of car that it is. But believe me, there is no shortage of power. The interior of the Ioniq 5N is quite different to the regular Ioniq 5, and that main difference is the lower console here, which has been shifted forward to be hard up against the dashboard. In the regular Ioniq 5 there's a big open space here, but instead in this car we've got an open space here in the middle with cup holders down low. And the steering wheel, which is quite different to the normal Ioniq 5. I'll get to that in just a minute. The 12-inch infotainment screen is anything but infotainment. In fact, this system controls every performance aspect of this car, and there is a lot going on and an awful lot you can customize. Going into the N menu, there are options for the way torque is distributed to the front and rear axle. There's the N race mode, the N drift optimizer. You can see how hard you're pressing on the accelerator and the brake. There's a lap timer. There's also a whole load of preloaded race circuits on here. So if you're going on a bit of a tour around the country, going to various racetracks, you can actually load up that particular racetrack into this system and it will follow you around on GPS, and you can see what's coming up and how quickly you're going around the track. Moving on to the second page, you can customize these two N preset buttons here on the steering wheel, allowing you two complete presets ready to switch into at any time while you're on the road. So you can change the motor from normal to Sport Plus. Same with the steering, the suspension, the limited slip diff, the stability control, the design of the head-up display, and even the artificial sound that's piped through the cabin. It can be the burble of an i30N engine noise, or you can have Evolution, which is sort of a bit more of a futuristic space age kind of sound, or even supersonic, which mimics the sound of a jet fighter. Not entirely convincingly, but it does sound nice. We've got the G-Force display screen here, the N launch control if you're doing 0 to 100 dashes. Then there's a whole other page of performance options here explaining how everything works. There's tutorials on how to use some of these systems properly. Some of these things, there are even warnings that come up saying certain options are not legal to use in certain situations. So kudos to Hyundai. They really have made the performance driver's dream here in terms of taking this car to the track. It's really not designed to live its life on the road. You should need a CAMS license to buy this car before you can take it out anywhere. And it should be a rule. You have to take it to the track, otherwise you're not allowed to drive it out of the showroom. Go and buy the N-Line instead. In addition to all of that performance stuff, there is all the regular car stuff too, like wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, native navigation. You can see the weather, you can record voice memos, all that kind of stuff. Boring, whatever, we're not going to do that today. Climate controls down the bottom here stay out of the center screen altogether, thank God, because there's enough going on there. Anyway, the lower console here, wireless phone charging, 2 USB-C ports. You can switch one of these to power or power and data, depending on what you need. Big open area here with mechanical cup holders, a pretty small center console bin. The head-up display I love. There's 3 different display modes, and my favorite one is when you're in that artificial manual driving mode where this car mimics being a petrol-powered car, and you actually get a display of a fake tacho, and you can also see the lights lighting up telling you when to change gears, which you can do with the paddle shifters here on the back of the steering wheel. It's a very cool feature. The digital instrument cluster in front of the driver, you can have that in regular Ioniq 5 mode, which is very clean and simple. It's got nothing going on. But why would you have that when you've got the full N display here, which looks much better? It's a bit more sort of traditional in its appearance, and there is a lot of information on here. You can see the motor temp, the battery temp. You can see the way torque is being delivered to the wheels. You can have the G-force meter up there. It just looks so good. The steering wheel, as I mentioned, a total departure from the regular Ioniq 5. This has been inspired by Formula One. There's a lot going on. We've got those 2 N preset buttons here. There's the drive mode selector as well for normal driving modes like, you know, Sport, Eco, Normal. You're never going to touch that. The NGB button is a button you are going to want to touch though. It's bright red here. You can't miss it. NGB standing for N Grin button, because it's guaranteed to put a grin on your face. This button unlocks that 10 seconds of extra boost power, unlocking that full 770 Newton meters of torque. And yeah, you fire this off when you're going to do a 0 to 100 dash, and that will get you the 3.4 seconds. It is awesome. Very much like being in a PlayStation game, actually. We've got all the regular sound controls and cruise controls here too. Paddle shifters on the back here for that artificial manual driving mode. These also work as regenerative braking modes when you're in regular electric driving mode. Indicator and windscreen wiper stalks, they're fine. And then there's probably my least favorite thing, which is the gear shifter over here on the steering column on the right-hand side. I don't love these. They're finding their way into every Hyundai car at the moment, and I prefer a T-bar or just a shifter on the floor. This thing here on it's fiddly. I don't like it. It's just annoying. Get rid of it, Hyundai, please. These seats are really nice. They're leather accented racing buckets with a light up N on the back there. There's no electric adjustment. It's manual only, but they are pretty comfortable and good for a long trip. And also you feel quite well hugged in if you're out on the track and, you know, getting some serious cornering going on. You'll feel pretty well supported. Plenty of headroom, plenty of knee room, good visibility throughout the glass house, nice big windows. We've got blind spot monitors here in the wing mirrors, but blind spot visibility when you turn your head is really good too. So yeah, the Ioniq 5N is the performance car that you're going to be quite comfortable in. And the back seat of the Ioniq 5N. Not that backseat comfort is a major concern to people who buy this car because, you know, if you're going out to the track, who cares what's going on in the backseat? But it's not too bad. It's pretty comfortable. There's plenty of knee room, and I'm behind my own seating position. I'm 190 centimetres tall, nowhere near the seat in front. We've got a flat floor here. There's no drive shaft, so there's a bit of extra leg room. There's 2 USB-C ports there. We've got an armrest, cup holders, good amount of headroom, window shades, and yeah, the seats are pretty comfortable too. So yeah, I like it back here. Is the Hyundai Ioniq 5N a turn-back car? A car so good looking that you have to turn back and look at it after you've parked it? Yep, sure is. I can't even believe I dignified that question with an answer. There is just so much going on in front of the driver that it is actually a bit distracting. I mean, we've got multiple readouts here on the instrument cluster in front of me. Then we've got the end screen here showing me, again, more information with more options on how I can tweak the performance of this car. And then there's the head-up display as well, which I've got set to nice and bright so it's easier to see, but again, more stuff to look at. So you do just have to really pay attention while you're driving this car. Of course, you can simplify it all down, turn it into a regular Ioniq 5 if you want, but what a waste. There are 3 different levels of firmness for the suspension, and even in its softest mode, it's still reasonably firm. But really, driving around town, there's no need to have it on full. I mean, that's just really only for the track. In the lightest mode, it's quite comfortable. Like all EVs, there is engine regeneration, allowing some of the engine braking power to be channeled back into the battery to give you a little bit of extra charge. When you're in N mode, and if you've got the regeneration set onto maximum, you really do feel that you're almost fighting against an elastic band in a way, because whenever you just slightly lift your foot off the accelerator, you instantly start this quite hard deceleration, and with everything set to the full sport mode, it does get a little bit jumpy. It's not the most comfortable experience. I mean, you can kind of massage it a little bit, but if you've got passengers in the car, odds on they're going to complain about it. So that's just something to bear in mind. You've just got to get the suspension settings mixed in with that iPedal feeling just to get it comfortable. Like all Hyundais, they beep a lot, and fortunately there has been an over-the-air update that has come out with all new cars as well, where you can now mute that. You do have to do it on every trip though, which is a little bit annoying, but it is less irritating than the beeping. You just have to hold down the mute button on the steering wheel for about 3 seconds and it turns it off. Okay, we're on the freeway now, so let's try out this manual driving mode. We even get artificial pops. Oh, Hyundai, you've done a really good job. The best thing though is that when you change gears with the paddle shifters, the car actually changes the torque a little bit and it gives you a little bit of a jolt. So you actually do feel like you're really changing gears. So I think the best way to drive around town with this car is to have the engine in Sport Plus, the steering on Sport Plus, and the suspension on its normal, softest setting, because there are just too many potholes and speed humps and things like that to negotiate around town. It makes for quite an uncomfortable driving experience if you've got the suspension set in its firmest settings. Save it for the track. The engine noises are fun, but they do get a little bit tiring after a little while. And I actually prefer driving without any fake engine noise. Okay, changing down. Let's get another engine pop going. Now the good thing about the sound is that not only is it piped in here into the cabin, but there are also external speakers, so people outside can hear your fake engine noise. How loud it is, I'm not really sure. I think it's probably a bit quieter than the real thing, but it's a cool feature. 0 to 100 in the Hyundai Ioniq 5N is 3.4 seconds. Now, I'm not expecting to be able to hit that without setting everything up properly, and I'm on a public road, so that's not really safe to do. So I am going to hit the NGB, N-Grin button, and slam my foot down and see how we go. Whoa! Oh my God! Whoa! Yeah, whoa. Okay, that was insane. So the NGB N-Green button gives you 10 seconds of added boost. It unlocks the full 770 Newton meters of torque, and oh my God, that nearly gave me a heart attack. That was insane. It's like the bosses at Hyundai gave this car to the fanboy engineers and said, make the best car you possibly can. And I know that sounds kind of silly in a way, because of course you would. You always try to do that. But it's like they said, no, really, every little thing that you could ever want on a car, just throw it on here. Every bit of performance. So I think I might have a new favorite car now. The Hyundai Ioniq 5N might have just knocked the BMW M3 Touring off its perch. Although BMW could be fighting back later this year, we'll see what they come out with, but the Hyundai is the one to beat. So that is the Ioniq 5N, truly one of the most engaging cars I've ever driven, electric or otherwise. If you think that all EVs are the same and have no character, take one of these for a test drive. You'll quickly change your mind.